Careers in Service panel of the 2020 Life After AmeriCorps Conference. This, as you know, is quite different for us. We're used to being in a large ballroom at a hotel and breakout rooms and food and great interaction. But we expect that these sessions will be very productive and helpful to everyone involved. Before we start with this session, I want to make sure that everyone who's currently serving as an AmeriCorps member will have the opportunity to interact with our presenters in terms of questions you may have for them or comments. And we ask you, if you're on with us today, to do that via the chat box. But we want to remind you that part of the federal regulations in terms of prohibited activities would mean that you should make sure that your questions or comments aren't related to current pending legislation or concerns that you have that you would want individuals to pursue, or be pro or con regarding specifics in terms of legislation. So we want to keep that in mind. Just want to go over the list of names of our presenters, and I'll turn it over to our moderator. And before I go over the list of names, I want to give a special thank you to Norma Johnson for all her efforts in helping us put this together. I'm excited. I'm not going to be one of those people that does the introductions and then turns this off. I'm very excited to participate and hear all from these individuals. Most of you I know and have heard before. Those that I don't personally know, I've heard of you, and I'm excited to hear what you have to share. We have Lisa Bryant with LM Bryant Consulting, who's been involved with us for a few years now. Rysheema Dixon, AmeriCorps alum, who we know very well. Desiree Faison with Shortlidge Academy, and who was, I guess, one person removed from AmeriCorps service, I guess you could put it that way. A good friend, and a current state employee that we stay in touch with, Richard Huber. Diane Laird, who's the executive director of the Dover Downtown Partnership. AmeriCorps alum, Matt Myers, who's our Newcastle County executive. And someone, if you don't know, you really need to know in terms of incredible resource individual and a good friend of ours with the Delaware Libraries, Alta Porterfield. So I'm looking forward to this time. I think this is going to be a great session. Those of you who are listening to this now can let your friends know that eventually this session will be available via YouTube, and you'll be able to get more information about that. So I'll be quiet and turn it over to our good friend. Okay, somebody sent me a note. Okay, and I don't know if I mentioned in the introductions, Rysheema Dixon is a current Wilmington City Councilwoman, has her own business, and served 2 terms with Public Allies, was involved with our Intercorps Council when she was an AmeriCorps member. So I want to make sure I didn't slight our friend Rysheema in that regard. So I'll be quiet. I'm going to turn it over to Norma to moderate, and I'm going to be here listening and enjoying this session. Thank you.
Again, I want to say good morning and thank you to all the panelists, because you guys have careers in service. So during this time, I know you're extremely busy and you're serving the community. So I just want to say thank you to all of you again for taking time out of your schedule today to talk to us. The purpose of the Career and Service panel is to help our AmeriCorps members to determine their next path after serving for AmeriCorps. A lot of them are considering different career options, and this panel is to give them insight, clarity from your experience of how to determine what their passion is and what careers are available to them in the area of service. So I will ask you guys 4 questions pretty much, and we'll pretty much do like a roundtable discussion concerning those questions. And after those questions, then we'll open it up pretty much to any online participants, and pretty much I'll go in order. So some of you are seeing some of the questions, so we'll go in order, and I'll call names, and I'll probably announce your title a couple of times just so those that are listening in and those that see us later on will know who's speaking during that time. So pretty much the first question that I'm going to ask is, or what I ask you guys to do is, please give us a brief 3 to 5 minute introduction that includes your current position and experience. And I will also post this question because I know we have 7 panelists today, so everyone can see the question that whoever comes in a little later to hear what you guys are saying. So first question again is, please give us a brief 3 to 5 minute introduction that includes your current position and experience. And I'll ask Lisa Bryant from Bryant Consulting to answer that question first.
Thanks so much, Norma. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Lisa Bryant. I am President and CEO of Bryant Consulting. And Bryant Consulting is a company that we inspire people to live their best lives by helping them build their confidence. So how do we do that? We do that by life coaching, one-on-one and group coaching. We also provide speeches. We also provide not only keynote speeches, we also do book clubs. We do like I said, coaching, everything that will help people live their best lives going from this point to this point. And I want to thank you all for being, thank you, Norma, for letting us be a part of this. The reason why this is so passionate to me, especially with what we do with the workshops and the training and the coaching, is because my husband is also a part of AmeriCorps. He is actually with the Vet Corps, my husband and my son. And so when I see them working and I see the good thing they're doing in the community, it reminds me of how important it is to build your confidence and how important it is to inspire people to live their best lives. And so when we're working towards helping people live their best lives, it's all about giving back to the community as well. So I want to say thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of it.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Now we're going to ask question to Councilwoman and founder of RD Innovative Planning, Councilwoman Rysheema Dixon.
Good morning, everybody. And to echo what Ms. Bryant just said, thank you for, again, inviting me to participate in this discussion on this panel today. I am originally from Philadelphia. I've been in Delaware now for 15 plus years. Have worked, did public allies back in 2010 and 2011. From there, started my own business, which is RD Innovative Planning, which is basically a community development consulting group that helps nonprofits as well as entrepreneurs get started up from their idea to a reality, and also helping nonprofits with delivery of services for outreach, advocacy, helping them with project management within the communities, and then ultimately helping them with events and event planning as well. Been doing that now since 2011. So actually I'm excited. Year 9 is coming up September 15th. And I probably would say the best decision I ever made, which was to start my own business and to do this work. So I echo the consulting world is a nice, fun world. So I would never change it out for anything else. I absolutely love it and recommend a lot of the folks who come underneath me to do the same. So, and then also did the crazy idea of deciding that I wanted to run for office in 2016 and ran as city council member at large, which I am currently in the seat for, and also now running for re-election for in September. And then I also teach at University of Delaware social entrepreneurship. So I get the nice of the being able to be a consultant allows you to do all these things. So I'm grateful and honored to be here again today.
Okay, now we'll ask that question to Desiree Faison of Shortlidge Academy Elementary School. And just to remind people that are listening, the question is, we're asking them to give us a brief 3 to 5 minute introduction that includes your current position and experience. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm gonna be brief. My name is Desiree Faison. I actually work for Shortlidge Academy, and I'm working under Children and Families First. If anybody knows our former CEO, Leslie Newman, I'm actually working under Children and Families First now, who are new CEO is Kirsten Olston, but I'm a community school site coordinator. And what I do here as community school site coordinator at Shortlidge Academy is that we provide technical support, we provide guidance and coordination of family-focused events to work on the pillars that target absenteeism, attendance, social and emotional learning, as well as nutrition and health, and just overall family and well-being of the student and the families that we serve in the school. So I've been here working at Shortlidge Academy since 2012, and I've been a public servant in nonprofit sectors for over like 15 years or more. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
And now we're going to ask that question to Richard Huber. He's with Delaware Division for the Visually Impaired and also a AmeriCorps alum.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today, and it's so great to be with such wonderful people here. I'm already inspired. But just to give you a brief little bit about myself, so I currently work as the volunteer coordinator with the Delaware Division for the Visually Impaired. And what I do here is a lot of my job is actually working in our Instructional Materials Resource Center, where we produce all of the accessible materials for the blind and visually impaired of Delaware. And so I run the program and train volunteers on how to create large print books, help with some of the Braille, also help out with some accessible documents too. So we're definitely in our very busy time right now as we're getting ready for the new school year and kind of the uncertainties as to what's going to come. But prior to that, I did actually serve as an AmeriCorps member for a museum back in Western Pennsylvania. And there I was part of the education staff. We developed field trip programming, and we also worked with volunteers there as well. And, you know, just kind of helped out with the day-to-day in the museum. So that kind of helping thing has inspired me into my current role where I am today. And I very much enjoy it, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Now we're going to ask that question to Diane Laird. She's the Executive Director of Dover Downtown Partnership and President of Simplejoy LLC.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for the invitation. Norma did have an in. Norma and I worked together when she was in AmeriCorps Vista at the Delaware Economic Development Office, and I also worked with our county executive, Matt Myer, there. So it's good to see you both this morning, as well as everyone else. I have a background in professional interior design. That was my undergraduate degree quite a few years ago, and I also taught at the College of New Jersey, taught interior design after serving 5 or 10 years in the field. In about 1998, I came to UD. We moved to Delaware from New Jersey, and I took up the master's program there in urban affairs and public policy. At which time I became an intern at the Delaware Economic Development Office and began my career in Main Street. Main Street is a program of downtown revitalization, certainly serving the public in cities across the state, and did that for 20 years as the state coordinator for Main Street in Delaware. About 2 years ago, I took a change. Many of you may know that the Delaware Economic Development Office underwent quite a change and became the Division of Small Business. So the focus changed quite a bit, and I took a nice opportunity in the city of Dover to come to work for the local Main Street program there, the Downtown Dover Partnership. So I've had quite a career, 22 years in public service and another 10 years teaching at a state college in New Jersey. And now at the local program, it's interesting because I'm able to implement a lot of the training that I taught over the years while at DIDO. And I enjoy public speaking. I work with volunteers and build the nonprofit organization here. We're quite a complex organization as a business improvement district, implementing the downtown development district's legislation, which helps to provide gap funding for projects that need to be redeveloped, buildings and properties that need to be redeveloped, but sometimes there's a gap in financing where there's not enough funding to create, a return on investment. So I also have a side career as a painter. I'm an artist. I took skills from my early career in interior design and perspective drawing. I do pen and ink drawings and watercolor. Here's an example of one, and it's a painting of the clock in downtown Dover. So that's been a nice side career, taking a little hiatus this year because it gets pretty hard to do, keep up with the painting, which is well more than a hobby, and put full time into a job that is new after 20 years in a different one. I also volunteer at my local church, Connection Community Church, served on the leadership team there for 4 years and have played keyboard in the praise team for now 18 years there. So try to keep the volunteer aspect alive as well as a traditional career. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Diane. Now we're going to ask Newcastle County Executive and Teach for AmeriCorps alum Matthew Myers to answer that question.
Thank you so much, Norma, and thank you, Charles, for including me today. As Diane mentioned, Norma, Diane, and I are old friends, worked together, I think, 9 years ago on economic development issues for the state. And I can vouch, if anyone has any doubt, Diane Laird is an extremely talented artist. It's not really just a hobby on the side. Sometimes I felt like her day job was the hobby on the side. So if you ever get a chance to see Diane's art, don't pass up that opportunity. I'm something called the Newcastle County Executive. It's a little like being the mayor of Newcastle County. We're in charge of 248 parks, 15 libraries, the Newcastle County Police, which is the second largest police department in the state, the Newcastle County Paramedics, which is the largest paramedic system in the state, the largest 911 center. We have the largest land use department, one of the largest affordable housing programs, and probably most importantly, we're in charge of the sewers in Newcastle County. So we make sure the water, when it goes down the drain, goes to a safe place, which actually is pretty high-tech science and among the most important things the government does. For the past few months, we've also been running COVID-19 test sites, and I just wanted to throw in a little bit of plug for to get tested for COVID-19. We're testing today, even on a hot day like today, at Canby Park in Wilmington and in Middletown High. If you do not know your COVID-19 status, go and get tested. I'm posting I'm trying to post, there we go, the website that has the locations there. So don't hesitate to go get tested. I go about once a month. Results are delivered electronically within 36 hours. My sort of career trajectory has been a little unusual. I grew up here in Delaware, went away to college, ended up making sandals after college in Kenya. I got a grant opportunity to go start a company that grew into a global company with about 35 employees operating out of a shantytown, a poor neighborhood in Nairobi, Kenya. I then came home and really got into AmeriCorps and Teach for America as a way of readjusting back to the US. I spent 3 years as a public school teacher in the Anacostia neighborhood of Washington, D.C. It was an extraordinary experience. I then went on to law school. I ended up in Iraq as a diplomat, embedded with the US Army for a year. And then I came home to Delaware and successfully ran for office 4 years ago. I want to emphasize to anyone on who's an AmeriCorps volunteer, I imagine your attention and your what you're really looking at now is what's your next opportunity going to be, and how do you get that job opportunity you want, and how do you take another step up the career ladder, or maybe what is it you want your ultimate goal to be. I want you to understand that from my perspective, if you've been through an AmeriCorps program, it's a tremendous job asset. It stands out on a resume more than I can explain. It shows to me you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. When I was in Iraq, my boss was a guy named Patrick Murphy, and he'd been in a number of sort of challenging wartime environments. And he said what he looks for on resumes when he's hiring is volunteer work. It's Peace Corps service. Because he said when you serve, and what Brian Stevenson calls being put in sort of uncomfortable situations, proximate to problems. So people like me now are in an environment where I sit in offices talking about problems, how to solve them. You as an AmeriCorps volunteer are often on the front lines. You're actually handing food to someone who's hungry, or you're sitting and counseling someone in desperate need of trying to figure out how to get quality shelter and housing. And those skills, my boss would tell me, is what stands out and what's really needed in so many government, non-governmental, private sector situations. So hats off to you for your AmeriCorps service. And I hope this panel helps you to understand how to take the next step.
Thank you, County Executive. We're going to ask that same question to Alta Porterfield. She's with Delaware Libraries.
All righty, so I've been the one that's been coughing on the sides. Let's see if I can keep it together here. My title is called the Statewide Social Innovator, which is a mouthful. What does that mean? Basically, working with people, listening to people, helping bring community together, bringing nonprofits, government agencies together to work on problems and hopefully solutions and brainstorming. So how I got about that was I was hired by the Delaware Libraries, which means public libraries, academics in our state, all 33 public libraries, working with them back in the last recession for jobs. So my bailiwick is helping people with looking for jobs. And from that experience, we found that people are sure they need a job because they need to pay the bills. They need food, they need housing, they need everything else. So we added more and more partners. And this is a wonderful state. I'm originally from New York, which is a wonderful state too, but for different reasons. Delaware has so many opportunities here. So I know some of you that are listening to this call are from other states, maybe planning to go to another state. I just want to let you know that Delaware has, you can do so much in a small state because you get to connect with people and really work with them as far as not only the networking piece, but working on interpersonal that can really help you go to the next level. So what I suggest is you, like always, wherever you end up working, is to volunteer and get involved in things that you are passionate about. Because once you're passionate about something, you're really going to succeed. So often when I'm doing the job coaching piece, people will have that question, do I get a job because I love it, or do I get a job because it pays well? That has to be a personal decision. And neither of them are better than another, which I know sounds bad if I'm not AmeriCorps and it's all about volunteer and we're talking about careers and service. But the thing is, if you're getting a job that pays well, it might also have good benefits and you'll have more time and money to be able to volunteer and devote time to it. Right. And so there's nothing in life is black and white. It's all a piece of this and a piece of that. So you have to make your own personal decisions. But I definitely say always volunteer and always push yourself as far as taking those new opportunities and listening to people and doing those interpersonal skills. So with Delaware Libraries, we started helping people with the jobs, started bringing in schools to help with the, especially for adult ed, for GED in high school. We started working with a lot of different areas, had meetup groups, and with that meetup group, we actually had some organizations said, we want to be in the libraries, we want to help more. So right now I'm in the Seaford Library, so some of the libraries, especially downstate, are open. And I have social workers in the library right now helping people. When I walked in this morning, they opened at 9, they already had people there, they were helping. And so we have, that's paid by your tax dollars. People are actually coming in and getting help with social work. We have Department of Labor coming in with the libraries, adult ed coming in, a little bit of everything. And I really, it's just a wonderful marriage. And so that's my recommendation is volunteer, even if you get another type of position, listen to people. It's amazing. A lot of times we have these meetup groups in the state, which are even easier now because of Zoom. You can be in 3 counties and all in one day. Sometimes I used to do that with driving, but now I can do it by Zoom. And a person that I was on a meetup group last month, and they were veterans. They're working with veterans, and what their concerns were about children. They don't have children now; they're all grown and like that. But they're really worried about tutoring and how to help kids and what can we do about kids. So with that conversation, a lot of people started reaching out and developing some ideas, and it was just very organic. And it shows that we're not just one dimension. Look at Diane. Diane has all these different traits, but we all do. We have all these different things. So just like listen and connect with people. That's my piece. I am going to take after what the Myers did and send a link right now through chat. And what it is that we are developing virtual online coaching for free for people that are either needing help with the jobs, career piece, brainstorming, mock interviews, all that, LinkedIn pages, as well as for social work. So please let people know about the social work piece too. We've divided it up by county on that. So I want to get that out. We're not busy. We're not busy at all because people don't know about it. So many places aren't open. So I just want you guys to help me out. Help me out. Get that out. Okay, I'm done. I know you're worried, Norma, because I talk a lot.
Thank you for answering our first question. Okay, our second question, and we're going to give you guys 1 to maybe 2 minutes to answer this question, is what inspired you to be in your current field? So we're going to go back to Lisa Bryant from Bryant Consulting first to answer that question. And I'm going to put that in the chat box as well for everyone.
Okay. So what inspired me to be in the field is actually I started off inspiring students, college students. And so I wanted to talk to that Lisa Wright. That's my maiden name. I wanted to talk to that Lisa Wright and encourage her and inspire her, because when I was in college, I hit some bumps in the road. I mean, I was a good college student, but there were some bumps that I hit in the road. And so initially the goal was to inspire college students. Encouraging them to live their best life. And so I wrote a book called You Are Enough, Keeping It 100 with Yourself 2.0. And people that were more mature said, wait a minute, Lisa, what about us? We want to know more about this. And so what I found is we needed to expand. We needed to expand to encourage not just a certain age group, but anyone that felt the need to live their best life. And so I found that, wow, this felt good. I was working for other people, but that it resonated with me. That was my passion, to help people, to encourage people. So that was the workshop side. The life coaching side was, because my other hat is I'm a pastor. And so I wanted to encourage people aside from being in church. How can I encourage you? How can I see you struggling. How can I let you know that you can go from here to here, not go backwards, but to move forward? This is your goal. And so all in all, I realized that going from me being selfish, Norma, of I want to talk to just that Lisa Wright, to realizing that my mission was far greater than just that one person. It was really a global mission. So that is why I do what I do.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Now we're going to ask a question to woman and RD Innovative Planning founder, Rysheema Dixon.
So my passion that I figured out over lifetime is people. And so I just surround myself with different opportunities and kind of see where I land in some capacities. I love to learn, so I learn as much in different sectors as much as possible in order to translate that into the people around me and also to my communities of what they have access to and how to best see them succeed in those spaces. And that's really what translated through my business. The reason why I joined council was because I wanted to bring power back to our communities versus the opposite, where the government has been taking so much from our communities each and every day, and decide when we want to give power back to you. That I wanted to get in and be able to help change that narrative of empowering our communities to allow themselves to find their own solutions, which they already have. We just have to allow them to do that. And translate into other opportunities, but my underlining is people and community. If it has community related to it, I'm always down. I will go do a community garden if I need to. I will go and help out with planning an event, a festival with communities. Many of them, I probably answer the phone a lot more than what I'm supposed to in some cases. But it's rewarding just to see the smiles on kids' faces, the families that I've helped. That's what keeps me going in all these different fields. And also just wanted to, I think, through teaching at University of Delaware too, which is my alma mater, and I didn't think at any point in time that I would actually go back and teach at University of Delaware, but the opportunity presented itself that I wanted to teach. And again, that's another element of teaching another generation, to be able to be social change agents and to go out in the world and understand how social entrepreneurship is also a big business opportunity for you too. You don't have to just do it in an entrepreneurship way. So yeah, so I'm just a lover of people, so I wound up everywhere and helping wherever I can. And that's what led me into all the different career paths that I've been in.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Now we're going to ask that question to Desiree Faison of Shortlidge Academy Elementary School.
Councilwoman Rysheema Dixon answered. She stole my answers a little bit. No, she didn't. But I'm inspired because I do like to see the smiles and dreams of families in the school. So I've been working in a school setting for over 17 years, I would say. And I would say I'm inspired also because I was raising my daughter as a single mom, and I worked at night in the financial services industry. So what happened with me is I would work at night and then I would volunteer in my daughter's school in the daytime. And a lot of people thought I didn't have a job, and that's okay. They thought I didn't have a job, but I worked at night to be able to be available to my daughter in the school during the day when she was in elementary school. So because of that, I wanted to dispel the myth that parents aren't involved in schools, because they are. So dispel this myth that they think that every parent in every school, and a lot of our marginalized schools, that parents are not involved, is not true. So I think what inspires me is to see the smiles of dreams on the families' faces that I serve here in the school, and definitely want to continue to be a champion for the family, the school, and the community. So again, raising my daughter inspired me, but I definitely continue to be a champion for that, and definitely to dispel the myth that parents are not involved in the child's education.
And now we're going to ask that question to Richard Huber of Delaware Division for the Visually Impaired.
Yes, so I think like helping people has always been something that's just been very important and passionate to me. And actually, just to kind of go back off of this, whenever I started with AmeriCorps, in my 2-year term, one of the most rewarding things we did was we had done a summer camp for underprivileged children in the community, and it was grant funded. And we were able to, take these kids to different places in the community. Being that our museum's tied into history and heritage, we were able to teach them about a lot of these different things. And just seeing the reaction on them and how excited they were and how much fun they had, it just really wanted me to kind of stay in the field that I'm in and helping people. So when I moved to Delaware a few years back, I definitely kind of wanted to stay in that field of either working with people and also with helping people. And so I was very fortunate to kind of to get into this career that I'm in now with volunteerism. And also, in the museum world, I also did work with volunteers as well. So I was able to bring some of that experience here and just kind of continue that good-natured, helping the community, helping children in the schools, giving them those resources that they need. So, just from that start back from that summer camp, that just kind of drove me into this next thing and inspired me to keep moving and helping in the community.
Thank you, Richard. We're going to ask that same question to Executive Director of Dover Downtown Partnership, Diane Laird.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been a combination of sort of an evolution of opportunities that have come along the way, but also takes into consideration these seeds that I think we're all given, seeds of giftings or areas of proclivity, things that we're interested in doing that we like to do. And, as I think about when I was very young, I used to play with doll houses, but I never played with dolls. I created doll houses or dioramas. I fitted them out with furniture, even had electric in one of my doll houses. You could plug in lamps. And so I think that sort of led me to the career in interior design. Although there was a time that I wanted to be a court stenographer, and when it was between the two, I took the interior design. But it's been around the built environment. My interest has always been around the built environment. And so going from doll houses and dioramas to models of buildings and perspective drawings and interior design, and then moving in from the interior to the exterior and working in downtowns where it's again the built environment, but in a much broader, more complex setting. I've always been interested in beauty. Crafting has always been, macrame and painting and using my hands to create. I love to bake, but I don't love to make, nutritious meals so much as I try to eat nutritiously. My real love in the kitchen is baking and creating, beautiful desserts, and certainly eating them as well. Sugar is just a lot of fun. But creating order, creating beauty, harmony, working with people, engaging people, and encouraging them. I think encouragement is another area of my gifting, and so motivating people, casting a vision, and getting people on board to move into a similar direction that we all, want to go to. We design plans or strategies, and then move together to have a team win. It's not about my vision, it's really about our vision, and then enabling people to get on board and take part in the outcome. So creating, finding creative solutions to problems, all of that kind of combined. So what inspired me, I guess it started with the dollhouses and the fitting out of them, but along the way, I found a mission, creating order, and thinking about encouragement, creating joy, and encouraging other people, and creating beauty. And beauty can be an order, it can be harmony, it can be actually physical beauty. And so, like I said, I think it's been in a combination, and I will admit I'm in the age 50 plus category now. So it's a little easier for me to look back on how it evolved than when I was young and wondering where was I going. But, I would be remiss if I didn't say that God has given me a great plan and fulfilled purposes in me. And so that's exciting. And, I do believe that it's possible to earn a good salary and enjoy what you do at the same time. So let's strive for that.
Thank you, Diane. Now we're going to ask that question to Newcastle County Executive Matthew Myers. And just to remind those that are listening of the question, it was what inspired you to be in your current field?
Thank you, Norma. I also just have to say, Norma, it's really a treat to be on this panel. How much I learned just from listening to the other panelists. It's very interesting. I don't have enough opportunity to sit on panels like this with a diverse group representing so many different industries. So it's really good. So I grew up here, and I left here ultimately to go to college, and really just wanted to make a difference. I ended up a diplomat in Iraq, as I mentioned, and we talk about, how to develop an economic system and make sure women have rights and there's equality among ethnicities the way it is back home in America. And then I come back home to Delaware. And about a year after getting back, a man named Alexander Kamara, an immigrant to this country, a 16-year-old, was gunned down at Eden Park in Wilmington, completely innocent, playing soccer, just caught in the crossfire and killed. And that created a real fire in me, recognizing that, as someone who's sort of gone around the world, I've spent time in Kenya, spent time living in Iraq, spent quite a lot of time in Central America. And anytime I'm abroad, I think how things back in the US are perfect. It's great. Everything works fantastic. And it really developed a passion about what more can I do and what more can we do to really build a more harmonious, integrated society and communities where everyone can benefit regardless of where they come from, where every child can grow up in a neighborhood that's not violent, where every child has an opportunity to access an excellent education and things of that sort. So that's ultimately what fueled me to run for office, in spite of the fact that pretty much everyone I talked to, a number of very senior elected officials, told me there was no way I could win. I ran against a longtime incumbent, but we did it anyway because I felt like I woke up in the morning, I looked in the mirror, and that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I wanted to achieve. And so we did it. So, I mean, as was said before, you got to find out what your passions are and really make sure what you're doing every day meets those passions. And as Diane mentioned, if you manage to negotiate it right, you can in fact make a decent living doing it.
Thank you, County Executive Matthew Myers, for that. Now we're going to ask Delaware Library's Statewide Social Innovator, Alta Porterfield, that question.
So I have the advantage of being the last one each time, it looks like. And I just want to say that the similarities amongst all of us, I could go right through from the very start with Lisa talking about working with just recent graduates and on and on and on. I have a connection with each one of you. So I bet people that are listening to this now, as well as the recordings later, are going to see connections. And that's my point, is there's so much, if you get to know people, about how we are alike. Sure, we have differences, but we have so many things that we can work on for the connection piece. And the more we listen and talk to people, the more we'll see those connections and build on that. So what inspired me to do this particular position was that it evolved. I'm from a family of volunteer. My dad, when he was a little boy, lived in the ghettos, and he volunteered, worked cleaning up a deserted lot to make it into a small little baseball field, and that inspired him to do other things, and on and on and on. So you don't have to have a lot to start and really make change, and that's how I was brought up. So I was also brought up with the feeling that you could do whatever you wanted to do, for good. I mean, not that we ran wild and did bad things. So that is a really important thing. So a lot of people have mentioned about inspiring people. I think that's something that this position that I have, I feel I get to work with people on a one-to-one basis, as well as different programs and agencies and nonprofits, and that really just expands so much. The other piece that inspires me is that we're in a time right now that has so many challenges, but from these challenges, I really feel that if we do some active listening, we can make a great deal of changes. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will eventually happen. So I think this is a time to start really getting involved in listening and hearing each other and working from that standpoint. I have on my group, I've had both AmeriCorps members, and now I have many AmeriCorps Vistas. I'm proud of each and every one of them with the initiatives that they're taking and the work that they're looking to do in the future. And I'm so proud of all the people on this panel that served with AmeriCorps or Public Allies. And I'm just, my hat's off to you. I did not do that volunteer work as far as one of those positions, but I definitely, ever since I was a little child with my parents, definitely been volunteering my entire life. And and that feels your soul. You need to feel good every day about what you're doing. So that is something that it could be just a little thing, but that inspires you to go on to the next step. But also when people see people that are impassioned and happy and proud of themselves, it helps 10 more people. So just keep that in mind. Things can be tough right now in a lot of ways, but we can make a change. So.
Thank you for that, Alta. Now we're going to go to our next question, which I'm going to ask and post in the chat box for you as well. Our next question is, what are some of the successes and challenges that you have experienced in that field? What are some of the successes and challenges that you have experienced in that field? And we're going to give you guys 1 to 2 minutes to answer that question. And we're going to start with Ms. Lisa Bryant.
Whew, the successes and challenges. It's funny because I think Diane mentioned about how you're in the 50-ish. I am proud to say I am too. And when you're in this space, you realize that back in the day when things were failures, they really aren't failures. They were actually learning, opportunities for learning and learning experiences. So I'm gonna lump all this all together. I'm gonna tell you my greatest successes have been during COVID. And I'm going to tell you why. because I've been doing this business since 2013. And I always called myself the Harriet Tubman of helping people, because I struggle with low self-esteem and I struggle with lack of confidence. And I have had contracts and I mean, working with, you know, my alma mater, with Westchester, and of course with all of you, and seeing people grow. But my greatest success has been when I faced the challenge of all my contracts ending because of COVID. My greatest success was, okay, looking at it and saying, okay, Lisa, what are you going to do? You said you inspire people to live their best lives, then you need to show everybody how you're living your best life. What are you doing? And so when I got over that pity party, when I stopped baking, no offense, Diane, baking the good cookies and the cakes and the pies, and got over myself, and I realized, okay, this thing is not going away. I had to go, all right, let me think about what am I going to do? If I'm saying I'm walking that walk, I need to talk and walk it in difficult times. So my greatest success was looking at the business, pivoting it, and saying, okay, I'm going to come up with the summer campaign. And how am I going to do that? First and foremost, I'm going to help small businesses in the area. So we were watching television and we saw that the restaurants were struggling. So we came up with an idea called Food for the Body and Food for the Soul. So we have a YouTube show every week that highlights local restaurants. And I don't ask, can you give it to me for free? No, we go and purchase the food, and I eat the food, and I give a spotlight, a shout out to every business. And so for me, being able to pivot in the face of adversity, that is a true entrepreneur. When you can say, okay, I inspire people, but are you inspired? So I'm going to say this is my greatest challenge, how I was able to go from here. I got a YouTube show. We got a summer campaign. We're coming out with clothing line, all because I said I'm going to be inspired myself. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we're going to ask that same question to Councilwoman, founder of RD Innovative Planning, Rysheema Dixon.
Yeah, and I actually, that was like perfect, because I was actually thinking the perfect word that comes to me instead of challenges is pivots, and, you know, and seeing them as not as failures, and that sometimes they're meant to be in that place so that we can pivot to where we're supposed to go, right? And if we went back and tried to change those things, it would look totally different than where we are now. And I think I think probably one of my biggest challenges was after I started my business, I didn't realize that it would conflict with my councilwoman role. And when it did that, I literally went through my savings for an entire year. And luckily, the success in that is that I had a year of money saved through my business in order to do that. But it was also at a time and a place where I was trying to figure out, wait a minute, where am I supposed to be doing? Am I supposed to really be in a political office, or am I really supposed to be doing my business? And it put me in a place where I was trying to figure out where to go. And the first place that helped me out of that transition was AARP. So it was funny because people were like, AARP, like, why are you working for AARP? You're not even at age to even work there. So, but they knew about my outreach background, right? So, and they knew that they were starting to become more intergenerational with their messaging and how to really get people to know that you don't have to be 50 plus in order to get our services and these kind of things. And that's really where everything picked back up. And actually, Public Allies nationally became my client. And it nicely flowed after that. But going through a year of your savings totally took a toll on me as far as, and still trying to build that back up, right, in the space. But when you're transitioning into new elements, you have to be ready for those transitions, right? And ready for when something that may come out of an element that you didn't even think of, or unintended consequences of doing some things. And but at the end of the day, it is the community members that kept me in council. There's many times that I've said, I'm done. This is not for me. This is, I'm just trying to help people. That's it. And I think, and there's times where the bureaucracy and how things work and where we are nationally, that takes a toll on what you're doing, and you have to be strong-willed. Public sector, as far as politics, is not for the faint-hearted. It is a tough game to play in, and learned that more recently again as a challenge. But because of my love for people, it keeps me here, right? Because I know that's where I'm supposed to be. But it also knows where, and I still sometimes say to myself, I don't know if I'm really supposed to be still doing my business full time outside of political office, or if I'm supposed to be doing council full time. We're doing it part time. All of us have jobs, but I think that's still something I struggle with. So I also want to tell that to other people. Just because you get into a space doesn't mean that you figured it all out. I'm still figuring it out as I go along. And you don't have to be, figure out where you want to go, but you don't have to have all the answers. And building those networks like the folks on the panel around you helps with get you to that place. So I would say I've had a lot of successes being able to get a business done, be able to stay in business for so long that I have been, being able to be a councilwoman, being able to teach me. So I've had a lot of successes, but I point out those challenges because those are my pivotal moments that allowed me to pivot into teaching, pivot into changing my business and things of that sort. So not what we call failures, but for our what we call as our pivots to success.
Thank you for that, Councilwoman Dixon. Now we're going to ask that same question to Desiree Faison of Shortlidge Academy Elementary School.
Well, I'm going to start with my successes. I am an AmeriCorps mom. I'm excited about being an AmeriCorps mom. So honestly, because I didn't participate as an AmeriCorps member, me being an AmeriCorps mom, and I know it's not about me, definitely now I know it's about raising up other people. And some of the success stories for me working at Shortlidge Academy under Children and Families First is that I work with good people. I have really been honored to work with good people, good administrators, good faculty and staff who are support in the things that I do with the school. So being around good people has helped me be able to do the things that I do. Some of my things are really crazy. I'm known as Hype Master Flex. I definitely am excited and really glad about success in terms of the kids coming back to school to visit me. Because I've been here so long, I have kids who are now in like 10th and 11th grade. They come back to make sure that I'm still here. So those successes and knowing that you have definitely empowered people to be better has really helped me in working in the school building with the school staff and administrators. Also, Children and Families First is very flexible in terms of what we do, how we do it for extended learning. We do it on Saturdays. We do it in the evening. We also do things in the morning before school. So those successes in the arena that I'm working in the school with the families and children have made that a great asset for me. Now, the challenges of working in the school is, we're on time frames. You have to pre-plan, and sometimes your plans don't go as you thought they would. We work with a lot of partners and stakeholders, so sometimes people have demands on you where we have a timeline of planning events because I have to work with the teachers, I have to work with the students, I have to set dates and deadlines, and those demands from partners who want to support the school, whether it's through their time or talent or money, sometimes that gets in the way. But what happens is I've learned to delegate those tasks, or I've learned to, work within those constraints and make things happen. But multitasking is definitely challenging in the work, but delegating and making things happen kind of makes it a little bit more worth it. So successes and challenges, you can take it the way you want, but it's all in perspective.
Sorry, excuse me, Desiree.
Yes, sir.
did you say Height Master Flex?
Hype Master Flex is what they call me.
Hype,
I'm very,
HYPE?
yes.
You got to explain each word. So you're Hype Master and you're Flex. Please, can you explain? Sorry to interrupt, but will you just explain a little bit about that since you
Well, for those who know me, for those who know me, it's a good thing, but I am a very energetic person. Right now on this call, I'm keeping my calm and my cool and collective, personality, but I love people and I'm so excited about seeing people and learning people. So my name is Hype Master Flex in the school. I'm the fun lady, I'm the love lady, but I do all those things in terms of knowing that it's not about me, it's about the kids and the families and the people.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Faison. We're going to ask Delaware Division for the Visually Impaired, Representative Richard Herbert, to answer that question. And I'm just going to restate the question pretty much again, that we were asking pretty much what are some of the successes and challenges that you have in that field?
Absolutely. So I think some of the successes I can say, even just to go back to when I started with AmeriCorps, I learned so much I was afraid to public speak. I didn't know much about writing grants. As far as, developing programming, I learned so many different things in those 2 years that I did with that is definitely one of my own personal successes that I can say. And then coming into my current position with the Division for Visually Impaired, a lot of my successes are just being able to work with the people that I work with. I work with so many wonderful volunteers, being able to develop a lot of our training manuals on how to produce a lot of these resources for the schools. It's really cool to be able to develop those, work with the people together, and see kind of the final picture coming together. So it's just very, very uplifting every day to be able to do that. Not to mention just having these selfless people coming into our offices, willing to give their time and attention to doing this for the students. Another success that I think I have is also just being able to see a lot of my volunteers. Been very lucky to see them win the Governor's Awards several years for youth and for adult, and being able to go with them, see them with the governor, be able to get recognized personally, and then also our agency being able to be recognized for self-awareness for blind and visually impaired in the state of Delaware. That's another huge success that I'm just very proud of. It's like being a proud father. So I definitely think those are some of my successes. Challenge-wise, I think it's a lot of things we probably all do deal with, especially if you're in volunteer coordination. There is sometimes a perception that as a volunteer coordinator, you can just have volunteers appear when they're needed. And sometimes that can happen, but then it's like, okay, we've used the volunteers now, let's turn it down a little bit and send them back on their way. And especially with what I do, it's a lot about cultivating relationships, about the training, about the energy. These people are a part of my team, a part of my family. So it's, as far as, well, we can just have them come in now and then they're done. It's always a challenge to try to say, no, it's more than this. It's they value what they're doing. They're here. They would like to be here on a regular basis. So I deal with that as a challenge, I would say.
Thank you for that, Richard. Now we're going to ask Diane Laird, Executive Director at Dover Downtown Partnership, the same question.
As I think about it, successes don't come without challenges. The challenges that are in place cause us to develop solutions and move along the process, which is like a wave sometimes. It's going back and going forward and thinking you're making success, and then you move back. So it's kind of this process that can be discouraging, but it can be very invigorating. So I guess when I think about some successes I've had, it's been because of the challenges. So we need to always keep that in mind. I think about in downtowns, the properties that are vacant, and often that's a problem because of unwilling property owners, property owners that are unwilling to give up their space, or to, maybe they have the top floor leased, so they don't need the money from the lower level, but the lower level is what needs the retail, and a vacant lower level space is like a missing tooth in the mouth. And so, and that creates certainly economic challenges. So, and when I think about, that situation, I think about that as a challenge that's ongoing and, never more prevalent than in Dover. We have a lot of missing teeth. And so developing programs to address those in a way that is fair and equitable and actually makes, gets the win that will be an ongoing challenge for me. But I can say that when I was with the state, we were able to address that particular issue on a statewide basis by being in touch through our local programs with property owners. Some of them we found were not unwilling; they just didn't know how to go about getting a space ready or finding tenants for it. So, you know, some of my successes in time have been locating good prospects, business owners that wanted to take vacant spaces and making that match. And I'm happy to say that even now, 7-8 years later, some of those businesses that we put in long-time vacant spaces are still in business. Some have even expanded to create additional businesses with a spouse, or expanded the one business. So, you know, I'll just use that as one example, but, you know, challenges create opportunities for successes. And I say along that process between challenge and success, celebrate the small victories. You know, there's another scripture that says, do not despise the small beginnings. Do not despise these small victories, and take time to celebrate them, sometimes to publicize them, because without that interim encouragement, we're going to not make it from challenge to success.
Thank you so much for that, Diane. We're going to ask that same question to Newcastle County Executive Matthew Myers.
Yeah, thank you, Norma. So one challenge is that I have to make hard decisions sometime, and I need to jump off this panel in 5 minutes. We are running test sites today in Middletown High School and Candy Park. It is unbearably hot. And so I'm getting texts from my team captains at each place. So I got to jump off and make a call. There are also 3 people I know who called me over the weekend who are going to the testing sites because they have symptoms and need to get tested. So you got to make a hard decision between, do you keep the testing site open and possibly put people at risk because it's so hot versus you know, closing them off so that people can't get tests. But what I thought of when this first came out, I mean, the success is we've done a lot of exciting things at the county. One of them is making testing widely available. We brought 200,000 saliva-based tests here. So we were the first state in the country that had statewide free drive-up testing that was saliva-based. And we're proud of that. We're doing really creative things with our sewers now, monitoring stool samples in the sewers. We were on MSNBC last week. It's been covered by CNN and Bloomberg as sort of an innovative county across the country, and things like that we're really proud of. When I think of challenges, I think of my experience as a teacher, where I felt like time and again, those in government, whether it was the state secretary of education, the federal secretary of education, the president, the governor, even sometimes my principal, the superintendent, I'd see them speaking about education or what needed to be done in the classroom. And I felt like they really didn't understand. They didn't understand the complexity and the challenge of being there every day. They didn't understand how hard it was when 25 students come into class and half of them didn't have a decent breakfast, maybe didn't have dinner the night before, maybe 3 or 4 of them don't really have anyone who tells them that they love them at home. And I was trained to teach math, right? And so it bothered me that people at the top were making key decisions that influenced the resources that I'd have and the ability I had to effectively teach, but really didn't have all the information or know-how. So because of that, it's one of the biggest challenges is with a very busy day to make sure I'm listening to people like AmeriCorps volunteers who are actually out there on the front lines who understand, wait a second, if you just change this program in this small way, it'll make a world of more difference. Making sure I'm listening to people, making sure they have direct access to me so I can get that information and make informed decisions to benefit the public.
Thank you so much for that, County Executive Matthew Myers. And thank you for your time with us, because you made us aware that you have to get off to handle some matters. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Norma, for what you do, what everybody does. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Now we're going to ask that same question to Alta Porterfield of Delaware Library. She's a statewide social innovator, and I'm just going to read the question one more time. It says, what are some of the successes and challenges that you have experienced in your field?
So one of the challenges is my particular department in the Delaware libraries is changed its names. When I first started, it was called the Job Center, and we focused on job, which ended up meaning a bunch of other things had to happen, just like what Matt Myer said. It's not just one silo thing. You got to look at all the pieces. And as time went on, we came up with the name Inspiration Space, which sounds very lofty and wonderful. And we were messaging it to the libraries, that every library is an inspiration space, because that's what we're doing. We're inspiring people to read. We're inspiring people to push ahead and learn different things and whatever. We're inspiring. That was our focus. But since we didn't have as much money, we didn't necessarily put that branding name into the libraries. We're just saying, hey, you're an inspiration space. And some libraries didn't get as much touchy-feely time as others. So we focused in the beginning on the libraries that had the most needs. So it was your Dover, Wilmington, Georgetown, Seaford, and then we expanded, and we would change depending on what the needs were. We were basically in 18 of the 33 libraries. As far as my team goes, we definitely would do things in all the libraries, but it would depend on the needs for how much time we spend in the libraries. And that's why I'm so grateful that I have AmeriCorps members as well as Vistas to help me spread, because one of the challenges everyone always has is financing, funding, right? We all have that. Time is another one we all have. Those are common things. No matter who you are, we always need more time and more funding to do more. But also a time to reflect on what we need to be doing, what our goals are. So I think one of the big successes is that at the end of when our grant ended in 2013, because we were given a grant by Melinda and Bill Gates, as well as funding from the state, the legislation heard our story of what we were doing, what we accomplished, and they said, we're going to fund it. This is too important. We cannot not fund it. One of the stories they heard was not necessarily a success, but of the need. So we had a young man that had walked 7 miles to go to a library, and his great need. 7 miles is not the biggest. That was just one of the stories that hit. I'm actually in Seaford right now, and Seaford, we've had many people walk 8 miles that we know of, or people walking 4 hours. Some people that are living in going to the Dover Library might walk 4 hours to get to the Dover Library. Well, that seems crazy because there's a bus, but if you don't have money for a bus, you walk. Okay, so anyways, so the success would be that we were nationally recognized with a lot of different awards from either the Library Association and the National Library, as well as when the Secretary of State for the last administration was leaving, they had to pick the program that they were most proud of in the state. And they chose, at that time, was called Inspiration Space. So that's big. We were one of 50 that went in. Delaware was one of 50 states, and we got to the top 4. And the frustration with this is, guys, they only pick one winner. The rest we are in the top 4. So it sounds like we're 4th place. I'd like to know, are we 2nd, 3rd, or 4th? But anyways, that is another challenge that I'll never know the answer. So they're not telling us. But that was exciting. That was really exciting. And one of the things that our Library Association, when they did the review, said that with so little money, so much was accomplished, which loops back to working with each other, listening to each other, seeing how we all can have the same goals. How can we do it together to help our citizens? So a challenge that I feel, there's different challenges. One of them I feel is going down to inequity. And I have many stories about inequity. We all have stories about inequity. And there's a lot of really good possibilities going on in our state. There's apprenticeships. The Department of Labor's got all these grants so people can actually go back to college or get certifications, and they'll pay for it, as long as in a career that's going to get a job once you finish, okay? And the income level is actually up to 300% of the poverty rate, so it's really decent. But people not necessarily can afford to go back to school if they need to be working. right? So all those things. And I've talked to too many people that have had game-changing opportunities that could not afford to take them because of their situation. And that's extremely challenging. I know some programs right now are working that out and trying to give some seed money to be able to help them with the things that they need. I'm working with social workers on a lot of different things, and it's getting better, but still that's a frustration when you see people that that really could have a completely different trajectory of their life within 14 weeks. There's IT Works right now has a particular position that 14 weeks you're in training, but if you can't afford 14 weeks without income, then you're not going to get it. So that's, or zip code, or I can go on and on with opportunities like that. So that hurts. It hurts personally. And like Matt was saying about challenges right now, the heat, right? So I keep saying I'm in Seaford. I'm all over the place, but right now I'm in Seaford. So I'm not, but Seaford Library has, since the COVID shutdown on March 16th, has fed 12,000 children. 12,000 children, 18 and under. Isn't that an amazing amount? They do it outside. As time is going on, there's less and less kids coming, because a lot of them are walking with their parents to get here, and the heat is just too much. But we're working as much as possible on different things. They've opened up the lobby of the library. This library is actually open now, so people can come into the library and use the computers and get the help that they need on that. But there's a lot of challenges. We just got to come up with some ideas on how to do it safely and figure it out. So anyways, that's kind of what I'm saying. And I think it was nicely said by many that our challenges create great successes in the long run. We just got to work at it together.
Thank you for that, Ms. Porterfield. Now I'm going to ask our last question. If time allows, we'll ask an additional question from the chat box if I see any pop up. But our last question that I have for you guys is, do you have any advice for anyone that is interested in having a career in your field? And I'm going to post that question in the chat box so everyone can see it. And I'm going to ask Ms. Lisa Bryant of Bryant Consulting to answer that question first.
Mm-hmm. My advice is, it's not about you. It's not about you. And that's not only for a career in my industry, and that's even in the volunteering. Many times people want to start a business. I want to start a business to make money. Well, if you're going to start your business to make money, you might as well stay at your job, because being an entrepreneur, you know what I'm saying. You know, Rysheema, you know, because you will face challenges that we've already talked about. You have to, when you go into business for yourself, you have to have a passion. You have to have a why. Why do I want to go into this business? Because when you face adversity, when you face what we're going through now, when the rubber meets the road, and it's like, okay, what do? You have to say, okay, I came into this business because I love people, like you said, Councilwoman. I came into this business because I love families, like you said, Des. I came into this business because I want to inspire. Even if I don't see the people being inspired, I still have to keep pushing, because it's not about me. It's really about planting the seeds. And that's number one, my counsel, my advice for someone that wants to go in my business. Number two is to be patient. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with the people. Some people may come to you, especially when you're sitting down with life coaching, and they may have a philosophy over to the left. You can't talk about them. You can't ridicule them. You can't call them all kind of names, even if that's what you're thinking. You have to be patient. You have to be patient. Another thing that I learned in volunteering, this is the third thing. I'm a immediate past president of my alumni association. I learned that when you speak to people, when you talk to people, don't get emotional. Now, you see by now, I'm hype chick. You know, I'm not as hype as Des, but I can be hype. But when you're dealing with people, when you're talking with people, don't get emotional. It's not about the emotion. It's about, okay, and you have to be direct. You know what I'm saying? We pass the excuses. We pass what they're coming at you. Okay, but you're saying, what I hear you saying is, so it's all about, number one, the people. It's not about you. Number two, be patient. And number three, be direct and don't get emotional.
Thank you for that, Ms. Bryant. We're going to ask the same question to Councilwoman and founder of RD Innovative Planning, Rysheema Dixon.
Yep, and just to go off of what Lisa just said too, what's helped me throughout the period of time is always staying true to who you are and your values. That gets you a long way. It also allows you to find, what gives you hope and purpose, and what you're ultimately supposed to be doing and where you're supposed to go. It's led me through, just the purpose of helping people has led me through a thread of all the different opportunities that I've had. And I also know when to walk away. And I've had to walk away from different things, and probably more recent of Friday, with the decision I had to make, as far as my next seat that I was running for. In some cases, if it's not keeps to your integrity and who you are as a person, then it's okay to walk away. And I feel that it's a weakness by doing it, but it's because it's probably the best decision that you should make for yourself. And I've learned that throughout the course of time, also through all my different opportunities, even with contracts that you may get. Know that if it doesn't align with what you're really doing and your mission and your vision and who you are as a person, remember you're tied to these individuals that are your clients. So what they put out also is a reflection of you. So if it doesn't go with who you are, then I wouldn't suggest them being your client, right? And don't just do it for the money, because that's just not, it'll get in the way. You will know that it was, clearly people will know it's just for the money, right? Because your heart and your passion won't be in it just as much as if it was something that you truly valued. And then I'll probably say the last piece would be surround yourself with people who hold you accountable, but also lift you up. There's so much negativity that goes through our social media feeds and what is happening in our news that you can easily get depressed in the state of where we are currently. So you have to allow yourself to reevaluate who your friends are, who should be around you, because that negativity can really take you to a place that you don't need to be. And being able to challenge and have those individuals around you to continue to lift you up as you're inspiring to where you want to go. And one of my friends always tells me, the people who are around you dictate who you are as a person. And you have to choose those individuals wisely, especially the folks who are your core people. And I'll give that to my friend Eugene Young. That's always kind of in some aspects talked about, you have to be able to do that, and talk to some of my classes about that too. So I would say those are probably like my major just staying true to who you are and knowing that your failures are not your failures, but they're your movements for your successes.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rysheema Dixon. We're going to ask the same question to Desiree Faison of Shortlidge Academy Elementary School. And the question again is, do you have any advice for anyone that is interested in having a career in your field?
I'm gonna try to keep it really short and brief, but I have a couple things. I guess working with children and families first. This is and has been a long-term career field for me, and we're actually under the Coalition of Community Schools. So this is a nationwide principle under community schools. So the Coalition of Community Schools, you can visit them on their website. We work for the Institute we work under the Institute for Educational Leadership. So again, this field is very broad in community schools. is nationwide. So I would say in this career field, if you keep the main thing, you'll do well, because I work with families, communities, and schools. Outside of the people, the places, and the personalities that you work with in a certain field, if you can keep the main thing, I think you would do well in a field of service. Continue to be professional, because you're going to, again, working with politics, and not saying personalities and everything, not in terms of politics, but you may not always agree with people, and it's okay to agree to disagree, but if you keep the main thing, you will be good. In terms of numbers, quality versus quantity, sometimes, you know, and me working here for all these years, I can say we've developed 50 partners and I've worked with 2,600 kids, but definitely you want to still keep that quality of your work, because numbers do matter, but if you could find a fine balance between quality and quantity in your work, I think that you can go further in life in terms of service and whatever you do in business and things like that. And I guess the last thing is just to make sure that you don't run on empty. A lot of times when we are in the service field, and I will put my hand up a lot to say that if you run on empty, you cannot give back to other people if you haven't given back to yourself. So make sure you try your best not to run on empty. And if you do, like Councilwoman Rysheema Dixon said, please make sure that you have an accountability partner to help you create that balance in your own personal life. And that's it.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Faison. We're going to ask Richard Huber of Delaware Division for the Visually Impaired that same question.
Yeah, so I would say, you know, as far as it goes on my end, it would definitely be, you have to be willing to be selfless. You have to be willing to put the other person ahead of yourself, especially with being in a health and social services field. Another thing that I would say is you have to be compassionate, understanding, and patient. We work, of course, with the blind and visually impaired population in Delaware. So you need to be able to understand and sympathize with what they're going through, and try to find ways to relate, try to learn that client, you know, try to take it very seriously. You know, be involved, be as involved as you can. And I believe it was said earlier too, don't do it for the money, do it for the helping part of it, that you're willing to be there to help. Another thing to do, I would say, is to be willing to take, you know, some additional classes. If you're looking to get into a health and social services field, start doing some different trainings. You know, if you're willing to go for your master's degree. In my world of volunteerism, a lot what I encourage people to do is webinars and trainings on how to be a better volunteer manager. I'm also part of DAVA, which is the Delaware Association of Volunteer Administrators, and we work a lot with some other great volunteer managers in the community. So just kind of learning what they do with their agencies, bringing some of that back with you is something that could help you be a future volunteer manager. Another thing that I do want to say is, you know, make those connections. If you want to get into the health and social services field, volunteer, do internships, different things on that. I always encourage our people to come and just volunteer, see what all we're doing. You know, if they're going to school or if they're interested in a field like this, we have people that come in and volunteer as client readers. So they go into our clients' homes, read their mail, help them organize their households. It gives them kind of an idea of what we do as the bigger picture. But I encourage more and more people to get into this field because it is just so rewarding. You do have your challenges, but you work with such great people. And at the end of the day, I think it's very fulfilling, and anybody that wants to, I think, should definitely pursue it.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Richard. Now we're going to ask Diane Laird, the Executive Director of Dover Downtown Partnership and Simplejoy LLC, to answer that question.
Sure. People have said such awesome and appropriate things, and so I really may just reinforce a bit of that. But 4 things that I would throw out there pretty quickly. One is work with excellence. I read a book one time from Martha Stewart. She wrote it when she was incarcerated, and it was the top 10 things, I don't know, about best business or something like that. And one of the things she said is work with excellence. Everything you do, use the highest standards possible. And I think about that in all stages of my work, and sometimes there's not a lot of time. And so doing something with excellence, even if not as complex as you would like it to be, is better than getting a long document done but not excellently. So work with excellence in your relationships and your conversations. You know, excellence, whatever that means to you in your work. Invest in your relationships. there's nothing more important than people. Having trusted relationships will provide you the access to other things, to other resources, to help, to accountability partners, to find solutions. So, be building trusted relationships in your work. Stay healthy. It's that live-work balance. Stay healthy. Eat well. Exercise. Walk. I love to walk, and part of that is just getting my mind straight. Sometimes, much of the time, it's prayer, and it's there's a known fact, a scientific fact, that your subconscious keeps working on things when you're not thinking about them. So put things in your mind before you really have to find, solve the problem. So put it back there in your mind, and while you're working out, your mind is working through that issue. So you don't have to be sitting at the desk all the time. Something that may not be very popular, but I think is very important, is to limit social media. We all are encouraged to be on, all kinds of platforms and all time in the day, and getting instant messages and getting notifications. And you know what? Our minds are not thinking deeply. They're surfing. And we need to think deeply about some things. We need to really be able to become an expert at something. You need to think deeply about it. And the distractions in our world are just constant barrages, just attacks. And so do the social media, but limit your time. Another fact, people on Facebook, they spend a lot of time. The common emotion is depression. And so I think it's the barrage of emotions that we feel when we're on social media, that we're not meeting up, we're not looking good, we're not traveling enough, our daughter isn't as, whatever. So limit social media. And finally, we've said it, everyone said it in some way, continue your service to others, continue volunteering. I'll end it with one more scripture, and that is, good will come to those who are generous. Be generous with your time, with your talent, with your treasures, and good will come to you.
Thank you for that, Diane. Now we're going to ask that question to Alta Porterfield. She's the statewide social innovator with Delaware Libraries, and I'm just going to restate the question one more time. It says, do you have any advice for anyone that is interested in having a career in your field?
So this time it's not an advantage being last because all of you have said wonderful things. And I had similar ideas, wording. I could change it up a little bit, but it's all really like a recap. So I could use different words. So one of the words I often would say is be authentic to yourself. And so that's been said by others, right? And with a different word. I think being authentic to yourself is, you can only fake it. The old saying, fake it till you make it. It's not going to happen. People see through it. You can fake it till you make it for a little while, and then all of a sudden it falls through, and you're not going to be successful. So if you want to be successful, be authentic to yourself, which means you got to listen to yourself, which means you need to take time to really understand who you are, which means you need to push yourself. Try different things that feel uncomfortable for you, that you feel would be a good thing for the goal or the community or for yourself, and try and see where that takes you. It was funny when Diane was talking, I Googled something because I was going to give the name of a book because I can't remember it. And I can't remember the name of the book. And I used a word and it was not the book I was looking for, but it was a good book. So this is FYI, I have not read it, but it was called Strive. It's basically trying to do things that are uncomfortable. It got really good reviews and all the different things. I'm like, well, what is the word of the other book I want to just think of? It was talking about this other book, which will be unnamed, and maybe I'll come to it at the very end. I'll be inspired with the name of it. It's talking about being hyper-focused on one thing and putting your all into it, right? So I read the book. It was a recommended book that one of the counties was reading, and you take a test to see where you're at as far as, are you that committed? And guess what? I'm not I'm not that committed. I am a person that really likes to take challenges, likes to work with people to get that challenge met. I will do things not perfectly, but I get people to help me with it, and I'm willing to make mistakes and apologize, but I'm being authentic to myself. I'm not a perfectionist. I am also, and whoever knows me knows I'm a massively hyper person. But at the same time, is I energize people that can help me make things better. So you've got to be true to yourself. So excellence is good, but there's all these sayings we say, right? What is it? Perfection, don't have perfection be the enemy of the good. So I'm working better on better emails, because half the time people say it's always fun reading my emails. I leave off words because I'm typing fast and I'll leave off a word. What was she really trying to say? Or I'll spell words wrong, like the word no, K-N-O-W, and whatever. I'll say something and I'm like, who knows what I'm doing? So that's not good. So I am getting better in that area. But basically, don't worry to make mistakes, because if people know that you've got the right intention and get to know you, they'll help you, and they know that you are there for them, and vice versa. And you can really succeed with your goal, which is also helping others succeed. So I had written I love the relationships is really good and important, brainstorming, trying things out, thinking out of the box, being creative, just trying. And I do not remember the name of that other book. That's it.
Norma, if I can jump in, and I think Alta made a really great point there. I don't equate excellence with perfection. And I think it's important to notice that, perfection is unattainable. I believe in this world, if we're shooting for 90% or even 100% most of the time, if we're reaching 80% on a pretty regular basis, that's exceptional. So I don't want to confuse perfection and excellence. I think striving to do our best, and that's why I say for each person, it may be something different, or it is manifested perhaps in a different way for each person. But in small business, I think that excellence is something worthy of striving for, not necessarily perfection. Appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you.
At this time, I want to thank all the participants for all the information that you've shared with us today for our virtual Life After AmeriCorps conference. We greatly appreciate all the information and the resources that you've given us to pretty much consider what we're going to do with our life after AmeriCorps. So thank you again so much. And at this time, I'm going to turn things back over to the AmeriCorps Delaware program. We have our AmeriCorps program director, Charles Harris, and our AmeriCorps program manager, Tara Wiggins.
Okay, thank you, Norma. Wow, that was so inspiring and so exciting. Just when you hear something that one person says and you're thinking, let me write that down, let me hurry up and write that point down. And as you're trying to do that, the next person's blowing you away with their comments. So we, again, are so grateful and thankful for each of you providing us with your very valuable time. And I think anyone who's heard this or is going to will understand why we invited the individuals who participated today. So again, on behalf of AmeriCorps in Delaware, we thank you not only for sharing with us today, but for all you're doing within our state and the valuable service that you provide. So thank you very much. I don't know if Tara had anything else she wanted to add. Okay. And again, Norma, thank you for all your hard work in preparing these sessions. Again, as I think Lisa and Rysheema commented, we've had to do a lot of pivoting during this time with our events and workshops and so on. But I think what we've been able to do, and you all today are a big part of it, is going to be very valuable and helpful and to support our AmeriCorps members and alumni. So again, everyone, thank you so much for participating today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Pleasure
everyone.
again,
Thank you,
Norma.
everyone.
Have a
Thank
good
you all for
one.
joining.
This is
If you're
Clementi.
interested in seeing the recorded video, it will be on YouTube after July 24th, the AmeriCorps Delaware
Okay.
YouTube channel.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.